This is Creatures Asylum on Heels and Quads Media. I'm Tommy, welcome back, and I'm here today to bring you a long-form video, a compilation, if you will. I've completed my Kiss studio album rankings, and here they are compiled. It's just the voiceover and the video voiceovers later on. I've tried to fix the audio where it was messed up. Having kids in the house, obviously, I've had to record in my studio. I've had to record in my kitchen. I've had to record in some of their rooms. I've had to record in the bathroom a couple of times. So the audio seems to be a little off in some of the videos. So comment below and let me know how I did cleaning it up. So hopefully it's all balanced out. Now, I advise, don't fall asleep watching this video because I know towards the end they tended to get a little louder. So I don't want anybody's eardrums to blow up or have somebody panic in the middle of the night. It was so quiet at some point and then it blows up at the end. So welcome. I hope you enjoy it. Creatures Asylum is a thing now. It's on Instagram at Creatures Asylum. Link in the description to our website. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment on this video. Let's keep it going. This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to put the work in, get you guys involved. Comment below. Give me your Kiss album ranking list in order. Include the solo albums like I did. Coming in at number 24, Monster, released October 9th, 2012. On the 20th and final studio album as a band, it seems that our superheroes wanted to appease us as fans by delivering a classic Kiss album that takes the formula of what worked before. It's not a bad record by any means. Musically tight and the bombast is there, a cohesive effort overall. But you can tell maybe they were right to not continue making new records in the first place and be that band that goes on tour every other summer to give the diehards a chance to see them live again, or those in seek of nostalgia a chance to see them for the first time. I hate to say it about my favorite band, but even over a decade after its release, the feeling just isn't there. And don't even get me started on the album's font that just looks like a conjunction with the energy drink. My least favorite track from Monster, Freak. Hate to say it because it's a Paul song, but it's too simplistic. The lyrics almost seem like he's talking to us like when we were in high school wearing Kiss t-shirts and some smartass saying Kiss sucks. My favorite track on the record, All for the Love of Rock and Roll. Written by Paul Stanley and with Eric Singer on lead vocals. A combination of Mr. Speed and Hard Luck Woman, which Paul wrote with Rod Stewart in mind, both from Rock and Roll Over. Eric's approach is very reminiscent vocally of what Peter did in 1976. Honorable mention for this record, Eat Your Heart Out. That gets me jumping. Love the acapella open with harmonies, simple Gene song with innuendo, but the bass line is present throughout, which is a huge win for this one on an album where it's mostly missing. In at number 23, Peter Criss, released September 18th, 1978. The first entry by one of the 4 solo records from 78. Don't get me wrong, I love Peter Criss. I don't even dislike this record. And I feel I have to count it because it's under the Kiss banner and he was still in the band, technically. Peter's known for having that jazz swing influence and sound, aka not a rock drummer. He really shows his roots, and I can see why in 78 that his effort would have turned Kiss fans off. Even as a teen in the late 90s, early 2000s, it threw me for a loop. Granted, I'm also a fan of the Rat Pack, Motown, and doo-wop music, so I could still enjoy it. Plus, I love Peter's voice. So it's a win, but it comes in at number 23 because it's not the Kiss sound. Not at all. Not once. Not never. However, I think it's refreshing on its own, and if you cast it aside upon previous listens, give it another try. My least favorite track from the album, That's the Kind of Sugar Papa Likes. Even though on first listen it sounds like Way Down from the Moody Blue record from the previous year by Elvis, it has that vibe, I just can't get into it. My favorite track, Don't You Let Me Down. Baby, don't you let me down. Always love this one. Lyrically structured beautifully. The harmonies on it are fantastic and almost sounds like Gene and Paul are on background vocals. Easiest song to listen to on the entire album by far. Honorable mention, I'm Gonna Love You. Almost sounds like a country song. The chorus is catchy as hell and sucks you in, at least me anyways. But hey, it's my list. At number 22, Hot in the Shade, released October 17th, 1989. First off, let me say, I to this day am envious of anyone who saw the Hot in the Shade tour, compared to the majority of the 80s with short sets and sped up versions, which aren't all bad. Kiss really dug into the vault and put on one of the best shows ever. Now the album definitely has highlights like the singles, Rise to It, Hide Your Heart, and Forever. Tracks like Silver Spoon, Little Caesar with Eric Carr on lead vocals for the first and only time other than the re-recording of Beth from Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits the year previous, and Betrayed, a co-write from Gene and Tommy Thayer, who, as we all know, will go on later to replace Ace in the band after the farewell tour. But I think we can all agree that there are just too many songs with a lot of filler just to appease the CD format. The production isn't as bad as I remember upon recent listens, even though a majority of the songs were just padded demos. My least favorite track, Boomerang. I'll put it nicely. I would have been just fine with Little Caesar being the closing track. Favorite track, Forever. Say what you will about it being a hair ballad, but the co-write from Michael Bolton, and I'm not so sure how much he assisted, but the man has an angelic voice and certainly pumped out some hits. The solo alone can bring a tear to your eye. Honorable mention, Hide Your Heart. Goes back to Crazy Nights, a co-write from Paul, Holly Knight, and the hit machine himself, Desmond Child. Covered by everyone from Molly Hatchet, Bonnie Tyler, and even Ace Frehley on his Trouble Walkin' LP. You can't beat that simple, hey, hey, do, 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 do. Perfect for that live feel. At number 21, Gene Simmons, released September 18th, 1978. While it might be the highest charted Kiss solo album from 1978, it certainly is not the best. But it's not the worst. It's kind of a buffet of styles from a Kiss sound to a groovy funk, Beatles pop, and just downright sappy with his cover of When You Wish Upon a Star. I'll start there. I get why he did it. Why did he do it? It's not terrible by any means. I really like Gene's vocal on the song, but for Kiss fans, the demon singing Disney, at the time, it was strange. But after what we've seen over the years in retrospect, it makes all the sense in the world. Add in guest appearances from Joe Perry, Bob Seger, Cher, Donna Summer, Jeff Skunk Baxter, Rick Nielsen, and even Janis Ian singing on the intro of Radioactive. It's literally a who's who of music at the time. Shit. Even Katie Seagal, TV's Peg Bundy, makes an appearance. Least favorite track? You guessed it. When You Wish Upon a Star. When you wish upon a star. While not a terrible cover and vocally Gene does a great job, it's just not necessary. It takes a special mood for me to not skip it. Favorite track? See You Tonight. I'll see you tonight outside. I understand why Radioactive was the single, but if we got two singles from Peter Criss, why not Gene? I mean, the record charted the highest. This could have easily been the single, or at least the second single. And while I enjoy the studio version, the MTV Unplugged is where it really stands out. Obviously, Paul was in tip-top shape vocally in 1995, but Gene is no slouch either. Add in Eric Singer and the three-part harmony is perfect. Honorable mention, Radioactive. I mentioned before that it was the single, and with good reason. It's the most Kiss-sounding song on the record minus See You in Your Dreams, which is basically Gene covering himself, since it was previously released on Rock and Roll. In at number 20, Psycho Circus, released September 22nd, 1998. I remember all the buzz of this album coming out. While Kiss had been back together for 2+ years, I was still too young to see them in concert or even know how to purchase concert tickets. So I missed the reunion and Psycho Circus tours, but I did know how to be at a store for an album release. And even though the album leaked online, it was such poor quality, and of course back then, dial-up internet, it took forever to download a full album. You either waited, or you gave it a second chance with high-quality CD or even cassette. I remember getting my copy and staring at the cover in all its lenticular glory, and wondering, enhanced CD? What? That sounds special. Thinking, wow, Kiss, original Kiss, a new album. Then we all found out that Peter and Ace had basically nothing to do with it, both only on 3 tracks. Although Ace's In Your Face, which should have been on the actual album, had made it to the bonus CD that came with the Psycho Circus VHS, and maybe even their updated version of It's My Life, which we didn't get until the box set 3 years later. I think those two added, and maybe a couple taken off, would place this album a little higher on my list. Because for the most part, musically and lyrically, it's pretty decent, but the tainted history alone drops it down in the rankings. However, I still enjoy it because it takes me back to that time and place. Least favorite song? I Finally Found My Way.
I finally found my way to you.
While it seems like the easy choice, nothing wrong with the vocal. Peter sounds great as always. It sounds like a cheesy rom-com end-credits song. An obvious attempt at Paul trying to recreate the magical success of Beth and even Hard Luck Woman in the mid-1970s. Would much rather Peter had an upbeat rocker similar to Black Diamond or Strange Ways. My favorite song? Into the Void. Not only because all 4 original members are actually on it, it feels most like classic Kiss, almost like a Shock Me or Rocket Ride Part 2. The Spaceman is back and he told you so. Great riff. While Ace is self-admitted to not be a lead singer, he has that cool tone in his voice that as Kiss fans we all enjoy. The solo kicks off with a bit of the Kinks' You Really Got Me, then Ace does his thing. Honorable mention, I pledge allegiance to the state of rock and roll. Paul's vocals are on fire in the chorus, an obvious attempt at an anthem. I always liked this one and wish they played it live more. It's hard to not at least mention the title track. I mean, it's been a concert staple for 25 years now, and also Within, featuring the incredible Bruce Kulick. It was originally demoed for Carnival of Souls, which we will talk about soon, but it finds its way here. At number 19, Sonic Boom, released October 6th, 2009. How can the highest charting Kiss album be this low? Again, this is personal preference. Like most Kiss fans, I was at Walmart at midnight to get this album. I don't dislike it by any means, it's just okay. The songs are fine, the lyrics are fine, musically, it's fine. It's just not a great album. While it sold well in a time music wasn't selling in physical form, and especially being an exclusive, it's impressive. But I think it's mainly because hardcore Kiss fans were more curious than actually excited. I love Eric Singer, and Tommy Thayer's a good guitar player and I even enjoy his work in Black and Blue, but something just doesn't click right with me here. Least favorite track? Say Yeah. I think this is a pretty common choice amongst the hardcore fans. If they're going to continue to play something off this record, I think we all think it should be modern day Delilah. Favorite song? Hot and Cold. A classic Gene song full of Dr. Love sexual innuendo in the ladies' room. Cowbell and bass. Just a great 70s style rock song. Even Tommy's solo stands out on this track. Honorable mention, Modern Day Delilah. Pretty obvious why it's the first single. It's the most well-written Kiss song in a long time. Maybe the last single we will remember. Even though Say Yeah is the one still being played. Paul's voice sounds great, excellent bass sound, solid riff, and a pretty damn good solo. At number 18, Music from the Elder, released November 16th, 1981. Kiss fans in general seem to be mostly split on this one. They either love it or hate it. I am indifferent. Had I been around in the 70s, I probably would hate it, but even then, it would have most likely grown on me. I am, however, with Ace on this. It's not a bad album, it's just the timing of it. And had they done that hard rock album like they said after Unmasked, aka Creatures of the Night, then The Elder, I think, wouldn't have rubbed people the wrong way. After Dynasty and Unmasked, US fans were already kind of out on Kiss. You throw a concept album in after a disco and a pop album when your hardcore fan base are rock fans, no matter what you do, even if those albums are good, you will most likely turn off that hardcore fan base. I feel bad for Ace, whose vote didn't count, and even worse for Eric, who didn't even get one and had his recorded debut be on this, but he does a great job. Least favorite song, Just a Boy. I love Paul Stanley, I love his voice, I know at this time what he could do vocally. He could have sang this in his full high register and it would have been a better song. Not a fan of the falsetto. Don't get me wrong, I sing in falsetto a lot, but I don't have the range of the Star Child. Favorite song? Only You.
Only you.
It's not so much the lyrics, it's the presentation of the lyrics. Gene does a good job on the vocals. Love the bass and drums on this one, and we could cut out that Just a Boy reprise. Also, Doro's version is really, really good. Honorable mention, Mr. Blackwell.
You're not well, Mr. Blackwell.
Darken almost sounds like the beginning of Gene's bass solo. Again, great job musically by Gene and Eric. That funky groove they have going throughout is pretty awesome. At number 17, Carnival of Souls, The Final Sessions. Released October 28th, 1997. Kiss goes grunge. Grunge gets kissed. I remember first hearing the title as early as August 94, as the Kiss My Ass Home video showed a preview of what they intended the artwork to be, which was that badass flamehead image. They were writing and demoing songs as early as 93, which also featured songs that ended up on Psycho Circus and Gene's solo album, Asshole. Had this album come out in 95, or like originally planned, even 96 before the reunion of the original four, it would have been awesome. But with the reunion moving forward, it was vaulted. Someone leaked a bootleg and it forced the band and Mercury Records to release it officially in 1997. While the reunited band was on break in between the reunion tour and the recording of the Psycho Circus album. Which brings the question, would Carnival of Souls been released had it not been leaked? I'm sure by now, yes, but maybe not in 1997. Least favorite track, Childhood's End. Something about this song always bummed me out. Change the tune just a little bit and add some steel guitar and it's a country song. Nothing wrong with country music, just an observation. Favorite track, Hate. This could have fit just as well on Revenge, probably why I like it. Nice little chug. Love Eric's drumming on this one, and of course, as usual, great guitar work from Bruce. This is definitely one they could have at least done live on the Kiss Cruise. Honorable mention, Rain. Another chug groove. Paul's voice actually really fits well with this one. I always wondered if he was uncomfortable recording something like this, because it's a far cry from Every Time I Look at You, or even Forever. Number 16, Unmasked, released May 20th, 1980. From Kiss Go on Dynasty to full-blown pop on Unmasked. Peter is credited, appears on the artwork and the Shandy video, but plays nothing on the record, so Anton Fig is back to fill in. This record is similar to The Elder. It's one the hardcore fanbase seems to be split on. I can't flat out hate a Kiss album, maybe it's a flaw in my fandom, but even in lineup situations, I can find the positives in each one. Ace seems to have gained even more confidence as time went on, and may be the best part of this album, because even though he's a rock guy, he has no difficulty writing a pop song. He even plays bass on all three of his offerings. Least favorite song? Easy as It Seems. Somewhat of a catchy hook and a good bass line, it's just too simplistic. Also, the echo on the hand claps drives me bonkos. Not a bad song. If it were the Bee Gees or Rick Springfield, I'd probably love it. Favorite song? Talk to Me. While pop, it could be my favorite Ace song. It has great structure and it's flat out catchy. I was so happy to get video of it when they played it on the farewell tour in 2001. Honorable mention, Two Sides of the Coin. Another carefree, poppy Ace track. The chorus is catchy as hell and I really like the drums. At number 15, Crazy Nights, released September 18th, 1987. It was going to be 16, then 12, but here it is at number 15. And it may be considered polished hair metal pop, but as a Paul Stanley fan, it's hard to dislike this album. I know diehards give a song like My Way a hard time, but I'm going to give Paul his flowers because he wails on this song. It may be low, but I really like this album. Even though Paul's thong on the back cover isn't my thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And I know he and Gene were kind of at a crossroads here, but it worked out in the end. Even a Gene song like Good Girl Gone Bad, while cheesy, cheese, in my mind, is good on the other side of the mid-30s. If you're a fan of Paul's voice, you love this record. And Bruce shines on guitar as per usual. Least favorite track, When Your Walls Come Down. I'll keep it short and sweet. The Here Kitty Kitty at the end, yikes. Favorite track, Reason to Live. Say what you want, this song rules. Great arrangement, yes there's keyboards, but it's catchy as hell and Paul sings his ass off. The drums are heavy, the solo is awesome, and the video is just fun. Honorable mention, Turn on the Night. It's cheese, absolutely, but in the best way. The video with the electricity is weird, but it's fun. If you want to do geometry with music, listen to Rush, and man do I love Rush. At number 14, Animalize, released September 13th, 1984. It was Kiss's best-selling album since Dynasty in '79, but with yet another lead guitar player in Mark St. John, may he rest in peace. He didn't really bring anything to the band, and only playing 2 full shows and a half of another. At least we got him in the video for Heaven's on Fire and the new Off the Soundboard album to document his time. Gene was basically Hollywood at this time, and it's Paul's time to shine. I always want to say also, Eric Carr is honestly my favorite drummer musically of Kiss. He played with a fire that's unmatched in my opinion, and I really like this album a lot. Obviously Paul Stanley's my favorite member of Kiss, and he definitely shines here. And he should, because he produced this album. Least favorite track, Lonely is the Hunter. I'll say this, the best part is that Bruce Kulick plays on it, the guitar solo, and Eric's drums are fantastic. Other than that, it's meh. Favorite track, Thrills in the Night. Yes, it's a bit poppy, but it was of the time, and Paul really takes over. Musically, it's bombastic, and Paul's vocal is fantastic. It should have been a hit. Honorable mention, Heaven's on Fire. Of course, why not? It was one of the only 80s songs that made it on the farewell tour in 2000. But the opening wail from Paul is out of this world. Catchy as hell in the chorus, and overall just a classic Kiss song with an 80s polish. 13. Asylum, released September 15th, 1985. Barely edging out of Animalize. Like I said, they kind of go hand in hand. Ask me next week, they could be swapped. However, there is one glaring difference, and I'll get to that. I feel the production is a bit better, the songs are overall a bit poppy, but still pack a punch. Plus, we get the great Bruce Kulick for his first full record as an official member. King of the Mountain is great as soon as it kicks off, a great opener. Even Gene, with Any Way You Slice It, is track 2, is a slight chance of hope that the demon is back. Even though Jean Beauvoir plays bass on Who Wants to Be Lonely and All Night, and Paul plays bass on Tears Are Falling. Least favorite track, Trial by Fire. I don't even really dislike it. This album was tough to pick a least favorite. It's an album I can listen to all the way through, over and over. We are getting to that point. Sorry, Gene and Bruce. This one drew the short straw. Favorite track, Who Wants to Be Lonely. Honestly, probably my favorite 80s non-makeup song. It's catchy with a punch, the drums are in your face, and Bruce has an excellent solo. Plus, Paul's vocal, holy shit. Honorable mention, Tears Are Falling. So what, I'm picking the hit. It's a hit for good reason. It's a damn good song. Great hook, drums are great, vocals are phenomenal, and of course Bruce's solo is a great one. Plus in the video, he gets rained on. Ah, the 80s. Such a simple and better time. At number 12, Lick It Up, released September 18th, 1983. The first album without makeup, also the album Vinny makes a cover appearance. Not to beat a dead horse, but how the hell do you not sign a contract to become an actual member of one of the biggest bands of all time? Did Vinnie Vincent save Kiss? My answer, no. Could he write good songs? Sure. But he's no Eddie Van Halen or Ace Frehley for Kiss' sake. This album is the perfect follow-up to Creatures. It's heavy, but also you get a single like the title track. It took years to grow on me, but as I actually got past the part where this is the first album without makeup, it kinda grew on me. Least favorite track, Dance All Over Your Face. It's not a bad song, it's just the lyrics. If the lyric was, I'm gonna kick your ass to the curb, it makes more sense than, I'm gonna dance all over your face. I've just never liked that terminology. Musically, it's fine, but in 2023, the year we're in now, it doesn't age well. Favorite track, A Million to One. Real Kiss fans know it, and we love it. How was this not a single? When Paul played it on the Live to Win tour, everyone loved it. Should have been a tour staple. Honorable mention, Fits Like a Glove. Plenty of bass, a mid-80s concert staple, great innuendo, everything I'm looking for in a great Kiss song. I'm a huge fan of it, and in the Kiss catalog, it fits like a glove. At number 11, Dynasty, released May 23rd, 1979. The return of Kiss, but also technically the end of the original band until 1996. The fans at the time for the most part seemed to be turned off by this album and the band's overall saturation of the merchandise market targeting a younger audience. It's a widely loved album now, and in my opinion, there's not a bad song on the album. Even though Peter Criss appears on the cover and is credited on Unmasked, released in 1980, he doesn't play anything on that record, and he only plays his one track that he sings lead and plays drums on, and that's Dirty Livin'. Anton Fig would play drums on the rest of the album, as he played on Ace's solo album previously, and would again fill the position also on Unmasked. Ace, however, after the success of his solo album and its hit single New York Groove, which I have a feeling we will be talking about shortly, had leverage and has 3 tracks featured which he sings lead, plays guitar, and also bass, including a cover of the Rolling Stones' 2000 Man. Gene is only featured on 2 songs, assuming Ace's contributions were better suited, and Paul has 3 tracks, including the 2 singles, Sure Know Something, and of course possibly now the common person's favorite Kiss song, I Was Made for Lovin' You, which also features Paul on bass, and he does an excellent job. It's well documented that Gene doesn't like the song. I believe it's just because he didn't write it. Least favorite track, X-Ray Eyes. Unfortunately, something had to get this spot, and while I've grown to like the song, in my opinion, it's the weakest track. Favorite track, Magic Touch. I think all, or at least the die-hard Kiss fans, love this song, and that includes me. I think it's the most rocking song on what many claim is the Kiss Disco or Kisco album. Paul's voice is amazing on this track, and it sounds so clear and powerful that it's hard to even hear anything else if you aren't actually paying attention to the musicianship, including Paul, showing his chops on bass and even lead guitar. The breakdown vocals after the solo are incredible. Honorable mention, I Was Made for Lovin' You. It would be a disservice to not mention it, It's such a great song whether you think it's a disco song or not. A hit is a hit, no matter the genre. If you can't get past a genre musically, you are only hurting yourself. I apologize for the delay on number 10, but it took me 3 days to decide between Paul Stanley and Ace Frehley's solo record. And then, the icing on the cake is then I had to reconfigure my entire top 10 because I realized Aces isn't going to be number 9 either. Like I said, it took me 3 days, but I finally got it figured out. And I love Paul. I'm a Paul guy, but let's face it, Ace Frehley's solo record is a smidge better, even though there's a lot of positives that come from Paul's. And this could be, the biggest positive could be that this could have been a full-fledged Kiss record. Top to bottom, it's amazing. It sounds amazing. It's well produced. Paul sounds great. Even the band that, there's a few different players. He had a LA team and a New York team, and Bob Kulick was the only one that played in both sessions. But I can't say enough about how much I love this album, so I'm just going to get to the point. My least favorite track, and it's not even my least favorite track. I don't have a least favorite track on this album, but I have to be fair and pick something, so I'm going with Hold Me, Touch Me. It sounds like a 70s TV theme song, and it could have been some showrunner should have picked it up, and I'm sure Paul would have been cool with it. Probably could have made this song a bigger single because this was indeed the single. My favorite track, Tonight You Belong to Me.
Tonight you belong to me.
It's Black Diamond's little brother. It starts off with that acoustic, in a dream a long time ago. Then the guitar kicks in, then the full band kicks in, and man, Richie Fontana's killing it on the drums. The bass is thumping. This should have been the single. The only beef I have with the song, and it's a small one, Paul Rhymes' Say Was Say, but I think we can let the Star Child have a pass on that. Honorable mention, Wouldn't You Like to Know Me? Top to bottom, this should have been at least a B-side. It could have been the B-side to Tonight You Belong to Me. Or even its own single. We got 2 singles from Peter. We should have got 2 from Paul. This song rocks. And it's got that one line that sticks with me. Every time I hear it, I'm just waiting for this one line. And it's, I tried to call you, but you were not home. Nobody likes to spend the nights alone. And it's so 70s rock pop, and it's so just perfect. Paul's voice is amazing. The band is amazing. That's it, man. It's just a great rock pop song. And it could have been a killer Kiss song, and they got to do it finally on the cruise. Paul did it on his solo tour in '89, and then again for Live to Win. So that's it. At number 10, Paul Stanley. Number 9, Revenge. Released May 19th, 1992. Kiss finds themselves at yet another crossroad. Eric Carr was sick with cancer during the recording process, and what I think was the backbone of the band in the 80s into the early 90s was unable to play. So Eric Singer, who had played drums with Paul on his solo tour a few years earlier, came into play on the record. Their latest release, Hot in the Shade, which was full of glorified demos, and although the tour was great, it was time for the music to get heavy again with Kiss, as the music scene was changing yet again. Seems like Kiss always found a way to know when it was time to put out a record with some balls. So they welcomed back Bob Ezrin, who now, in a much better place, helped them produce one of the heaviest sounding records they ever had. While Eric Carr was no longer with us, his heavy sound rubbed off on this record, and while new at the time to Kiss, drummer Eric Singer might not have the heaviest sound of all the Kiss drummers, but he does play with the most precision. Least favorite track, Spit. I don't skip it, I don't hate it, had to pick something, and Tough Love edged out to not be featured. It's still a fun song. Only change I would make is just call it shit. It don't mean shit to me is what the fans sing anyway. Favorite track, Unholy. I think most will agree. It was the first single, had an awesome video. It's the demon at what he does best. Give us something crunchy and spooky to sink our teeth into. And I love the solo from Bruce. Honorable mention, Heart of Chrome. A hard rocker from Paul, excellent riff, and Paul's delivery of the vocals are top notch. I love the line right before the chorus and the way it's delivered. Another underappreciated track from the non-makeup era was stellar work from Bruce. At number 8, Ace Frehley, released September 18th, 1978. While it did not chart the highest of the 4 solo albums, with Jeans hitting number 22, Ace's landed at number 26. It did manage to garner a hit single with New York Groove, topping out at number 13. Ace really pushed for these solo albums, with stories of people in his and Peter's ears, and just them simply being unhappy. I believe it was a good idea. I mean, it's not like they didn't sell. Ace was smart by asking Eddie Kramer to produce, and with Anton Fig on drums, sonically, I believe it's the best sounding of the 4 solo albums overall. With Paul sounding the most like a Kiss record, Ace's just sounds the best. Favorite track? Rip It Out. A fantastic rocking opening track with guitar work, which is what we would expect from the Spaceman. Least favorite track? Fractured Mirror. I love instrumentals, don't get me wrong, especially to end a record, but I have to pick one song to place at the bottom, and with this album being an absolute stacked monster, unfortunately Fractured Mirror suffers that fate. Honorable mention, Snowblind. Assuming this is one of the songs that was going to be on Rock and Roll Over, as Ace said, I can hear and picture Gene playing bass and growling background vocals. Would have been fun to hear the full band play this live. Number 7, Dressed to Kill, released March 19th, 1975. The band's third album, and while I've yet to get to the first and second albums, it pains me to put Dressed to Kill at number 7, but let's face it, even Rock and Roll All Night couldn't get this one higher. While there are certainly really good songs here and the running time clocking in at just around 30 minutes, making it simple and to the point, Casablanca owner Neil Bogart produced it, and it was obviously rushed due to the fact that the band was touring non-stop and Hotter Than Hell just stopped selling. The band needed a hit. Even with Rock and Roll Night now being the juggernaut anthem it is 50 years later, the studio version just missed. It doesn't capture the fire that would be found on the band's next groundbreaking album, Alive. And while not totally live, at least Rock and Roll Night had the guitar solo. I'm by no means saying Dressed to Kill is not an amazing album, no way in hell. I mean, it is landing at number 7 out of 24 on my list. I just think there are 6 that are better. Favorite track? She. She takes off with love. From the opening riff, the drums kicking in, and then the funky bass groove. The jungle breakdown 3/4 through into the incredible dual guitar solo will make you weep. This song is easily in my top 5, if not higher, favorite Kiss songs. Maybe that will be a list for another time. The dual harmonies are Beatlesque, and the band, while I'm sure exhausted, are so tight. Least favorite track, Getaway. While it's got a great riff and Peter's voice is as incredible as ever, I can't put anything for my baby here because everybody seems to hate it, but we can call it a tie if you want. It's difficult to choose a least favorite. I mean, like I said, it is in my top 10 albums of all time. So we will leave it a coin flip. Honorable mention, Love Her All I Can. I love this song in any form I can get it. That opening riff, the way Peter and Gene come in with the drums and bass the exact same time, beautiful. It's catchy as hell and will leave you singing it randomly throughout your life until the end of time. Another really cool solo from Ace. Of course, Paul's vocal is top notch, while not quite super Paul yet. Those years are still to come. It's clear he is a star even here in 1975. At number 6, Destroyer, released March 15th, 1976. Yes, you heard me right. Destroyer comes in on my list at number 6. I'm not denying the impact it made, or has made, or that it isn't a great album, because it is. This is just my personal opinion. Everything about this album is great. Well, a lot of you hate Great Expectations, while I actually like it. But as a Kiss fan, when some people only know these songs, and this album's cover image, and even the band that keeps putting chunks of these songs in every set list for every single tour, it just turns me off. On top of that, while Bob Ezrin is a great producer, the sound effects get to be a little much for me. While live showed the band in its natural habitat on stage, Destroyer's just overproduced. Again, hate what I say all you want, and please let me hear it in the comments. I welcome everyone's opinion, and this is just that, my opinion. There is too much going on and not enough straightforward rock and roll. Hell, even the single edit for Detroit Rock City didn't have the car crash effects behind it. Obviously, single edits, while sometimes annoying, are really only there for the common person, but at least it gets to the point. Most people put this as number 1 or number 2 on their album list, and if you asked me 10 years ago, it probably would be, or even 10 years from now, it possibly could be. Favorite track? King of the Nighttime World. Yes, it's technically a cover, but Kiss's version is far different and superior, and they made it their own, one that I believe should be in the set list every night. That ringing feedback makes it the perfect second song in every single set list. Least favorite track? Shout It Out Loud. A great anthem and a great song, but I just hear it too much. I won't skip it, but I also don't seek it out. Well, not since my kids were really into it, but at that point my thought process was, hey, at least my kids like Kiss. It's fun live, it's a great time when you're there in concert, but the studio version is just meh. Honorable mention, Flaming Youth. I think there's a 50-50 split amongst the Kiss Army with this one, but I think this is the perfect anthem for the fans. It's what the band was all about. Teenage angst and parents thinking their kids are dumb, even though they were once themselves teenagers. And I even tell myself this, that I was once a teenager, now that I am myself raising teenage boys.
At number 5, Rock and Roll Over, released November 11th, 1976. Barely 8 months after Destroyer was released, and just enough time to tour and record this album. Produced, engineered, and mixed by Eddie Kramer, and recorded at the Star Theater in Nanuet, New York. Which is a really cool way to record an album, especially for Kiss, on a stage in a theater. However, Peter did record the drums at a bathroom to get the sound right, and had video monitors set up to communicate with the rest of the band. While it is coming in at number 5 on my list, this album is very strong and gets away from all of the added effects that kicked Destroyer out of my top 5. It's a straight up classic rock and roll Kiss album filled with innuendo, driving songs, and even a ballad from Peter. While Hard Luck Woman was written with Rod Stewart in mind by Paul, they kept it and had Peter sing it, hoping to cash in on the success of Beth. It's hard to pick a least favorite, and honorable mention from this album, but here it goes. Least favorite, See You in Your Dreams. Not saying I don't like this song, but even Gene was so unhappy with it, he re-recorded it for his solo album. So that kind of gives me an easy way out. But man, Ace has a badass solo and Peter has a really cool drum fill in the breakdown. Favorite track, Mr. Speed. It's really a shame non-Kiss fans don't know this one. I really think it could have been a single and probably a hit. Also, why the hell didn't they at least put this in the set for the tour, for this tour, Rock and Roll Over? Yeah, we've got bits and pieces of it here and there, but this is such a live sounding song, that riff, so simplistic yet sounds fresh even today. Gene's vocals even really stand out on this one, and of course, Paul Stanley is fantastic as always. Honorable mention, this is almost as difficult as least favorite. I've got 8 songs left on this album that can take this spot. Today, I'm going with Take Me. That added reverb or chorus on the background vocal gives it that live feel, the riff, Ace's guitar work in general, and of course, that innuendo. Put your hand in my pocket, grab onto my rocket. That's what I want in my Kiss songs.
Number 4, Hotter Than Hell, released October 22nd, 1974. Fresh off the release of the debut and during their brutal touring, Kiss's second album, recorded in August of 1974, failed to capitalize. While the debut hit number 87 on the Billboard 200, Hotter Than Hell flatlined at number 100. Obviously, the problem was fans just didn't get why the band sounded so flat on these albums compared to the live show, with bombs, flash pods, fire breathing, blood spitting, and of course, Paul's preacher-like stage banter. I wonder what the difference was. Also, the production on the first two albums was unforgiving, especially on this record. It sounds like it's recorded in a coffee can on certain tracks. But even with the production value, this record stands the test of time, and in the opinion of many, one of the band's heaviest albums. Plus, you can't deny the amount of absolute classics this album offers, like the title track, Parasite, Strange Ways, Watching You, and I'm gonna say it, even the somewhat unloved Let Me Go Rock and Roll, which, I mean, at 2 minutes and 14 seconds, how can it even bother you? Maybe it's just the live version with the extended breakdown and Gene's humping of his own bass. Least favorite track? This is difficult because even at number 4, I probably listened to this album the most out of all the albums in full. But I'll go with Coming Home here.
I'm coming home to you.
Don't get your panties in a wad, I love this song. But I think a lot of people would agree that the unplugged version is better. I do, however, wish it would have either opened or closed Hotter Than Hell. Favorite track? All the Way. I'm sure this is unpopular opinion, but since the first time I heard this song, I was in love. It continues to be that one out of nowhere. It hits me, the riff, and I'll have to at least sing a few bars. Honorable mention, Parasite. I have to mention this Ace Frehley written powerhouse. This baby was metal before metal. That riff that melts your face off and that breakdown, that was basically a Kiss standard back then. And then a solo, then back to the riff. If you aren't a Kiss fan, I appreciate the view and you listening to my opinion, but leave right now, go listen to Parasite, come back and comment and tell me how right I was. At number 3, Kiss, released February 18th, 1974, and previously the 8th on the West Coast apparently. While I mentioned before how Hotter Than Hell had production issues with sound, seemingly due to the team of Kerner and Wise, they also produced the debut, which was basically a rehashing of the band's demos produced by Eddie Kramer, which in hindsight sounded better. Production notwithstanding, this is the album with the most well-known Kiss songs overall in the entire catalog. Maybe Destroyer is tied or a close second. Let me know what you think in the comments. I've heard the sentiment 1,000 times from every band that I've ever loved. You have your whole life to write your first album and basically 6 months to write your second. While Kiss was no different, parts or most of the first 3 Kiss albums were written technically before Kiss, due mostly to Paul and Gene's previous work together in their band Wicked Luster, which also had a deal with Epic Records. Recorded a debut album, and the record deal went kaput. Wicked Luster broke up and Gene and Paul set out to, as we've all heard a million times, become the band they never saw. Eventually, an ad was found from Peter Criss, who was a drummer willing to do anything to make it, and guitarist Ace Frehley, who answered the ad in the Village Voice from Paul Stanley, looking for a guitarist with flash and ability, or balls as they say a lot. The Spaceman auditioned and got the job, red and orange mismatched sneakers and all. They showed him Deuce, he jumped in, played everything he knew, and as they always say, the rest is history. I will not be including the cover of Kissing Time in my possibility for least favorite song, as it was not on the original pressing, but will include Love Theme from Kiss, which was originally the song titled Acrobat. So with that said, I'll call it an easy way out. Least favorite song, Love Theme from Kiss. While it has a fun groove, putting it up against the 8 other absolute Kiss classics, again, no kissing time, this is just kind of there. It's an instrumental, that's it. Favorite song, Black Diamond. This is easily in my top 5 favorite Kiss songs. The acoustic intro rules, it's catchy, great breakdown, great riff, solo rips. Most importantly, Peter sings his ass completely off. Also, this has to be mentioned, I love the studio version. I love all the live versions, whether it's Peter Criss, Eric Carr, or Eric Singer. They all sing it with such enthusiasm that if you weren't a Kiss fan, you wouldn't know who sang it originally. That's impressive. Honorable mentions, the remaining 7 songs on this album. I'm just kidding. This could change on a daily basis for me, though. I love Strutter. Cold Gin is so much fun and a great drinking song. Nothing to Lose has unmentionable things. You can't even talk about this day and age without somebody saying, you're canceled. So I'm going to go with Deuce. On the Wikipedia for the album, it says under this song, Gene doesn't know where these lyrics came from or what they mean. I always assumed that he's worth a deuce meant he's worth a shit. Even as a younger fan of the band, I thought that was a cool lyric, and the musicianship alone on this track is absolutely killer. That line sealed the deal for me. Number 2, Creatures of the Night, released October 25th, 1982. The band was in an interesting spot in their career. Peter leaving 2 years prior, and Ace on his way out the door, and not playing on this album at all, much like Peter with Unmasked. Eric Carr was clearly hungry to really show his talents, having only been heard behind the kid on the previous album, Music from the Elder, which obviously was a concept record and not well received by the fans. And no tour, only really appearing on TV in the States, other than the Palladium show in 1980 to introduce Eric Carr. So this was not only his opportunity, but the band's chance to show they could still rock. Even though future guitarist Vinnie Vincent plays on 6 tracks, this to me feels like a Frankenstein album in a way. But, and I've used this word a ton, in hindsight, I don't think the masses gave this one a proper chance. This album really is a heavy album. Their heaviest to that point, and sound-wise probably of their career. You can argue Revenge and Carnival of Souls, but I don't think so. The drum sound on this album is influential and is the reason the Dr. Feelgood album from Motley Crue has the sound it does. I think Michael James Jackson should be held in the same regard as Eddie Kramer and Bob Ezrin as far as the elite producers for Kiss, because he could be the one that saved Kiss, not Vinnie Vincent. Even the stuff he helped with on Killers, for the most part, is pretty tight. With the passing of Neil Bogart, the departure of Bill Coyne, and of course, Ace leaving the band, despite appearing in promotional material, the press conference, interviews, and even the video for I Love It Loud, and the cover, the band was at a crossroads. While the tour didn't do well, the sound carried on into the band's next, which would be their first without makeup, Lick It Up. But on a personal note, the imagery, sound, and songs here make this one, other than the original lineup, my absolute favorite. And that's why it lands here at number 2. It's popular amongst fans now, but I think it's just a shame more people weren't locked in back then. But, I mean, I understand why, after Unmasked and The Elder. Least favorite song? Again, this is tough. I mean, it is my second favorite album from my favorite band. I love all these songs. I could pick I Love It Loud here, but that's not fair because I actually love the video and I like the studio version. I'm just tired of hearing it live. I could pick I Still Love You. It's a ballad, but I won't. That song rules, and not one person can tell me the unplugged version isn't peak Super Paul vocalist extraordinaire. War Machine? No, that song kicks serious ass. So much so, I had a junior high band named after it. I'll go with Keep Me Comin' here. I really like this song. I'm only putting it here because I have to pick something, and the chorus is just kind of non-existent, which is fine because the whole song is catchy. Favorite song? It's like picking your favorite child. I'm going with Saint and Sinner. Its tone and timing is very Love Gun musically. Not comparing, but if you want to argue, by all means, let me know in the comments. But listen to it. But for Gene, I think it's very different. I love how high the bass is in the mix. It's got that brooding demon feel that we had been missing for years, and vocally Gene really sings with a little extra passion in his vocals. And seems that he's really trying something different on this track. I love it. Honorable mention, Killer. I could pick Creatures of the Night here, the song, so I'll just say this. That song kicks ass, but I feel it gets enough love from the fans already. So I'm trying to spread it around here. I really dig the riff in Killer. Very 76 to 78 Gene vocally. It sucks that Paul doesn't play on it, but as far as the guitar sound, this sound is killer. Plus Eric's drum, Gene's bass so heavy and high in the mix, it's killer. At number 1, and my favorite Kiss album of all time, Love Gun. Released June 30th, 1977. From the opening of I Stole Your Love to the opening piano and bass riff of Christine 16. Into the classic Kiss sound of Got Love for Sale featuring Gene's demon growl, into the drum intro to the awesome riff, and for the first time ever, Ace Frehley on lead vocals with Shock Me. Of course, the amazing solo on that song, the innuendo and old school even then vibe of Tomorrow and Tonight. Then my favorite song of all time, yes, I'm doing things a little bit different in this video, Love Gun. Which...
Seriously, this song is called Love Gun, and it's about Paul Stanley's dick.
How badass is that? Hooligan. It's probably my least favorite, but it's not a bad song, just if I compare it to the rest of the album, or Peter's lead vocals on the rest of the Kiss catalog, it's just kind of there. Love the live version though. Almost Human has that cool funky bass hook and the guitar with almost a Dan Electro sound. Plaster Caster seals the deal for me. If you've been around the channel long enough, you know the way to my heart is classic rock innuendo. Nothing like today, when nothing is left to the imagination, and while most of the musicians today have zero talent, nor do they play their own instruments. I digress. This is about Love Gun, and wrapping it up is a cover, Then She Kissed Me, a Crystal song, originally titled Then He Kissed Me. You probably know this song best from the Copacabana scene of Goodfellas. Or if you frequent East Street, Bruce Springsteen has covered it a few times over the years live. I know my video has been a bit different on this one, but along with Creatures and Destroyer, I've actually covered this album in another video that not many people saw around Christmas last year and gave this away, so it's been in the channel this whole time, waiting for somebody to find it. But I didn't want to just re-release that video, that would suck. So here it is, fresh and a little bit on each song. Now, I wasn't born until 10 years after this album was released, but I'll never forget when I finally got the CD of the remastered version. My sister had went on an FBLA trip with school, and before she went, she asked if I happened to go to the mall, is there a Kiss CD that you don't have that you really want? And I said, yes, Love Gun. It's my favorite album, and I don't even own it. She got home late because they rode the bus all the way back, and then she finally came in. She knocked on my door, asked if I was awake. I always slept with music playing back then, and now it's the TV, but I had double platinum on, and I said, yeah, I'm up. And she came in, she flipped the light on, and there was a bag from Sam Goody. She handed it to me and said, before you get excited, they didn't have Love Gun, so I got you something else. I was a little bit disappointed, but I opened it anyways, thinking it's going to be some Kiss album I already have, or something with Kiss on it that I already had. But no, it was Love Gun, and I flipped out. Great memory. Love it. Love my sister Jen. Thank you for that again. I could talk about Love Gun for hours, but I want to try to keep this series a little bit uniform. This one's a little different because I'm talking about personal stuff. But, you know, this is just the beginning of Kiss on this channel. And I'm on the hunt for a co-host still for a Kiss show on Heels and Quads Media. So there's plenty left. There's plenty left to cover. And I just want to thank everybody for watching, the support, the subscriptions, the comments, the likes. I can see the progression, and I really just want to thank all the Kiss fans for all of their support. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. And thank you to Kiss for making it all happen.